This is my third video on the tarot. This is about the suit of wands or rods. So first, we'll just review the tarot. There are 78 cards in total. 56 of these fall into four suits of four cards each, ace through 10 plus court cards. So this is a lot like the modern playing cards. The suits in the tarot are swords, cups, wands or rods, and pentacles. And the four suits together, those 56 cards, are known as the minor arcana. And then there's an additional set, a series of 22 archetypal images. They don't fall into suits, they just follow their own pattern. They're called the major arcana. So that will be the subject of the fifth video in this sequence. So let's talk about wands. The psychological function is intuition. The element is fire. We'll also see a lot of salamanders. Apparently in medieval times, they thought that salamanders could survive in fire. Seems strange to us now, but that was the association. So we'll see salamanders in these pictures. The chakra is the seventh chakra. And the key words are creativity, leadership, service, inspiration, exploration. We see lots of creative types in these, lots of people exploring, following their intuition, lots of people using leadership, and intuition makes them a great leader. So all these are themes of the wands or rods. Let's look at the cards. The ace of any suit is the most powerful part of that suit. And so in this case, the ace of wands, it's really about the power of having that initial flash of intuition, that guides an enterprise, that allows you to understand what somebody else is doing. This initial flash of intuition that can be so valuable and that can really open up a path in life. The two of wands is really about a young person who longs to explore the world. They're kind of at the beginning, they're holding a globe, they haven't seen a lot of the world. This card is really affirming, yes, it's good to go out there and start exploring. It's a big world out there, go and explore. That's kind of the message of this card. By contrast, the Three of Swords shows someone who has explored the world, someone who has grown wise by their various explorations, who has seen a lot of the world, seen a lot of the human race, and really has integrated a lot of that wisdom. Now, T.S. Eliot associated this card, in The Wasteland, he associated this card with the Fisher King. And I'll say briefly the myth of the Fisher King. The Fisher King is wounded, he becomes sick, his land becomes the wasteland. Of course, that was the title of T.S. Eliot's poem. But then when the Fisher King receives the Grail and drinks from the Grail, he becomes restored and the land becomes restored. And so in many ways, this card represents that latter. This represents someone who has really followed their own path of authenticity in exploring the world. And so they've lived a life that has affirmed their own authenticity, and they've seen a lot of the world. And this gives them an incredibly rich and deep understanding of the human race, of various cultures. And so it's a very wise, powerful card, the Three of Wands. The Four of Wands is a very happy card, a very joyful card. Of course, fours in general are very stable, and that resonates well with the wands. So this is just the joy of a festival. Lots of people celebrating together. There's joy, there's happiness, there's connection. Very auspicious to connect with people in joy. So a very happy card. By contrast, the fifth often represents crossing out of balance to a place of imbalance. And here we have tremendous imbalance. We have everyone following their own intuition, and it's a complete melee. Everyone against everyone else. Everyone's getting knocked in the head. No one is winning. Everyone thinks they're right. So it's just this messy situation where it's certainly, when you find yourself in a situation like this, the best way is to admit some humility and just withdraw, because there's no way to win. Six of Cups, six is often about connection. And the Six of Cups is just a very beautiful card. It's a leader who is recognized by the people. The people are very grateful for his contribution. They're celebrating him. He's deeply connected to the people. And so it's really a wonderful card about leadership. And it's a truth that more than we realize, each one of us is a leader in our life. Each one of us sets an example that other people are following, and so it's about taking powerful responsibility for the example one sets in life. Seven often represents something of the sacred. And here we have a person who is trying to follow the sacred. And it sometimes is true when we start to move toward the sacred, there's this moment when it feels like the whole world is against us, and it feels like we're fighting against the world. That doesn't necessarily continue, but that's at least a feeling at the beginning of the path of journeying on the sacred. Everything's against me. Because, in point of fact, there's a lot in modern culture, a lot about the entertainment culture, for example, that deeply mitigates against the kind of focus and recollection needed for the spiritual path. So it does seem like there's a lot in the modern culture that we have to fight against in order to pursue the sacred. And so the message of this card is, yes, it does seem like a fight. Just follow your own intuition, follow your own sense of what's best for you, and it will work out. The Eight of Wands is just a beautiful card, just about new landscapes, new horizons. There's an element of spring, new winds blowing over the land, very hopeful, wide open possibilities, new creation. It's auspicious for creation. It's auspicious for any kind of new enterprise. The Nine of Wands is in some ways an evolution of the Seven of Wands. This is someone who has really fought and followed their own path of intuition. They're a veteran of a lot of fighting. They've gotten clobbered many times, but they really have lived a life of their own authenticity. So it shows the struggle of that, but it also shows kind of the honor of that and the deep reward that comes from having followed one's authenticity. Now, the danger of intuition is that we get too wrapped up in our intuitions, And so this is portraying someone who's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit. They're completely wrapped up in their own intuitions, and they're no longer checking in with others. Now, we see houses, we see a village in the distance. The message is this person should put down the rods and walk over to the village and connect with other people, because it's this delicate balance. We need to have our own intuition. We need to follow our own intuition about what's right for us, but we also need to be in connection with others to make sure that we're not getting off the deep end. We need others to tell us BS when what we're doing doesn't make any sense. We need to balance that kind of deeply connecting with ourselves, but also being open to the impressions of others. And this is someone who is out of balance. They're too wrapped up in following their own intuition, and what they need is the input of others. The Page of Wands, a page often represents a child or a young part of oneself. Here, notice that on his garment, we have a lot of salamanders. The plume of his hat looks like a flame. And so this represents a part of ourselves that has a new intuition about something. Someone who is following intuition, say, for the first time, or is beginning to explore a new intuition about something, still feeling into it, still exploring it. There's a sense of newness, but a sense of promise with it. The page is about a more mature person or a more mature part of ourselves. Again, we have salamanders on his cloak, and the plumes look like flames. And so this is a person who charges into the world following their intuition. They're very exciting. This person might be the life of the party. They know what to say to each person, to excite each person, to get each person engaged or involved, you know. And so this is a person who has no trouble enrolling people with himself, gathering a celebratory crowd around him. It's a very positive, powerful card, someone who uses intuition to inspire and lead others. This is one of the more beautiful cards in the tarot, the Queen of Wands. This represents an actual woman or an aspect of ourselves, this aspect of the feminine that is deeply self-satisfied, confident, this listening. She has the lions on her throne and on the tapestry behind her, and a cat sits in front of her. Of course, it's the nature of a cat that it watches very carefully, and it sees much more than it says, you know, and that's that gives us a hint about this woman. She sees much more than she says. So this is someone very wise, a very good observer, a very good listener. This would be a wonderful person to tell your problems to get advice from. Just a tremendously beautiful presence. And the King of Wands, I would call him Mr. Hunch. He has followed his hunches all his life. He's followed his hunches, and he's had a bunch of success following his hunches. And these hunches might be in business, they might be in politics or other big adventures, but he knows how to lead, he knows how to make things happen, and he always follows his hunch and it pays off for him. So he's ready to jump at the next opportunity. Notice even the salamander next to him is ready to jump. And so this is a very exciting, positive character, a character who has enjoyed an incredible amount of success and is pursuing more success. And so that's the very hopeful mood of the Wands.